A.J. Carmichael was a sentient goldfish who held the position of head of the board of directors for the Temps Commission. Today, I'm going to build an A.J. replica. For the dome, I took a cue from Macklemore and went to a thrift shop, where I discovered this 50th anniversary wedding ornament, an eternal reminder of a couple's everlasting and undying love, which I immediately cracked open and ripped away the unwanted symbolism, just like the harsh reality that destroys so many relationships. Okay, so there are two problems here. This is a little too long, and this sticks up too high. So we're gonna fix that with a rotary tool and a narrow bit. I later found out that this was unnecessary, but I'll show you anyway because what else am I gonna do with the footage? I sliced it up with a narrow rotary tool bit and then switched to the drum sanding bit to clean it up a bit. You gotta be careful when you do this that you don't crack it. Now just do that all the way around the rim. I think I'm actually making it slightly shorter. Like I think it's supposed to be like right there. But the taller it is, the more volume of water it's got to hold, the heavier it's gonna be. And keeping this thing from leaking is gonna be a nightmare. So I'm just gonna try not to go higher than that. There we go. I'm gonna save this. It could be good for a helmet visor for one of my upcoming builds. That edge is extremely rough, so I leveled it off on the belt sander. Okay, so that came out pretty good actually. And I've cleared away the vast majority, there we go, all of the flash from the interior rim. However, what I had feared when this was EVA dust. Is that foam dust or COVID? Foam dust or COVID? Foam dust or COVID? Oh god! This is every cough, every headache. This is my life now. Unfortunately, this was made by vacuum forming, like in my Daft Punk tutorial. So it's not actually a perfect cylinder all the way across the body. It's a little bit of a cone. So, doesn't work. Now this is a point where a lesser man or a man with a job would just give up, but I don't have that luxury. So I'm gonna have to come up with a brilliant out-of-the-box solution, like turning it upside down. Solving problems with William Jakespeare that were created by William Jakespeare. Quiet, you! Sure thing, Other Barry. There's a little residue where the stickers were. There were actually two for some reason, and those can be taken care of with Goo Gone. Smells like oranges. Or soap and water, but I just wanted to up the toxicity of this process. So I cleaned that off, and now I have to make the whole thing watertight again. Or for the first time. I don't know that it was watertight to begin with. Certainly water resistant. For that I'm going to use aquarium sealant or silicone. It's the same thing. It's all about how it's marketed. Prop making is thirsty work, so remember to stay hydrated. You don't want that to go into the ocean and strangle a cephalopod, so I built it into the prop and sealed up the seam. I'm also going to weight that down with the closest and most conveniently shaped weight. That silicone is going to take 2 days to fully dry, so while it sets up, I'm going to work on the goldfish itself. A live goldfish proved too problematic, so I used this plastic one from the internet. Alright, this is a toy goldfish because my CG skills are not quite that good. Also, I do have aspirations for this to be like a cosplay type prop, so I can't really walk around a convention with a green tennis ball in the globe. Who am I, Jar Jar Binks? Or any other alien, robot, or location in the prequel trilogy? I just made 16 Star Wars fans very happy. I drilled an eye bolt into the bottom and tied a length of fishing line to it. I knew that I was gonna have to cover up the jagged edge of the bottle, so I picked a container lid with a wider diameter than the edge that I had cut and attached another eye bolt to the center of that. This will conceal that jagged edge. You know what, I'll just show you. I drilled holes for the water to drain through and siliconed it to the base. See there, now it covers up the jagged edge. There has to be a more eloquent way to say that. Support me on Patreon so I can afford a writing staff. When it dried, I painted it black. Just a quick note, paint has a hard time sticking to silicone, so you're gonna have to do several layers. And in fact, at a certain point, you may just have to live with that. When that dried, I attached the fishing line. Then I siliconed the dome on and let that sit for a few days. Then I got to work on the collar. I used takeout containers for the internal structure, then I glued these together in an hourglass formation. And honestly, I like the look of that. You could almost sort of leave it like that. I cut holes in them so that I could get to the bottle cap. Now, oddly enough, super glue was not the best glue for this. I ended up reinforcing it with hot glue. Oh, and you know what? Another thing I could have done that I forgot in retrospect. I should have made a note of this at the time, but covering that seam with just a strip of duct tape would even help. To get a close match to the details on the one in the show, I'm going to need to cover the takeout containers with foam. The initial tendency is to cut a straight strip of foam, but because of the conical shape, you're actually going to have to cut a curved strip. So for that, I'm using this old helmet template piece, which I know I'm gonna have to, don't even ask me about it because I'm gonna have to heavily modify it. Nuts. That space can easily be filled in with foam, it's just annoying. I used half-circle dowels from Mikles to both hide the seams and recreate the shapes from the filming prop. Then I cut a second curved strip for the lower portion. The foam will move around while you're working on it because it has no mass. And this can cause all sorts of problems. Everyone's been telling me to solve that problem with 1, 2, 3 blocks, but I don't believe in spending money on scrap metal, so I went out to source some for myself. One of my contemporaries is having problems with loud trains outside his filming studio, so I decided to kill 2 birds with 1 stone. You're welcome, Odin. These are my 1, 2, 3 stakes. When you're done causing massive railway disasters, connect the pieces with super glue. Now, if you're interested in supporting the channel so that I can make these videos without causing massive railway disasters, then you can join these wonderful people scrolling by right now by following the link in the description below. Any pledges that I receive go towards improving not only the prop, but the video quality, as well as shop equipment. And this allows me to put together bigger and more exciting projects for you to enjoy on the channel. So, now to hide this seam, I'm using hot glue right here, which typically you don't want to use on EVA foam because if there's any stress on it, it's not very durable. But there's not really any stress on this seam. It's purely cosmetic. So for 90% of it, it's getting stuck on with super glue. What? No. So for 90% of it, it's getting stuck on with hot glue, and I'm using super glue at the very end. So that ain't going nowhere. There's a rounded air intake on either side. It actually wraps around like a horseshoe. So for that, I cut a length of wider half dowel from Mikles. I sanded the ends into points on my belt sander. Yeah, so when you can put them together like a rocket nose cone and they look identical, then you've reached a measure of symmetry that I would say is pretty good. Just be careful because the belt sander will eat the foam. I super glued that to the prop, again, weighting it down with the 1, 2, 3 stakes. I made the mouth detail out of more scrap foam. I carved out an opening with a pen casing and a razor pen tool. I also punched out all those little tiny holes with barbecue skewers. For the speakers, I decided to just do those details as an etching. Then I painted it using acrylic latex paint. Foam is absorbent, so you'll need to do several layers. Side note, if you're buying all your materials from scratch for this project, then you probably want to start out with a base coat of gloss white so that the top color is more vibrant. But that's not in the budget for me, so I'm using the leftover paint from my Fallout builds. I haven't done one of those in a while. I should do one of those again. And of course, I just touched it with both. What are you doing, Jake? So this is probably going to need 3 layers. I want to do the top one in this other blue because I have it, Alright, so the first coat is dry, and you can sort of see that where it went on a little bit thicker, it's shinier, and where maybe it sort of thinned out a bit, it's got this matte texture. So I got to do additional coats until the whole thing is shiny, then I can do the top coat of metal. Alright, so that's 2 coats, and hopefully in the interest of time, the next one can be the metallic layer. See how much shinier that is? Next, I went over everything in blue. When that dried, I switched to silver. That's going to need several layers. I think that could probably stand for another coat, although if I hit it with enough light, it is very reflective. That's actually why they stopped making Mercury spacesuits, spacesuits in general, silver after Mercury, because the mirror spacesuits were way too bright. It was like looking directly into the sun. Little space trivia nobody asked for. Jake is a nerd. The mouthpiece is gold, so at first I thought to use gold rub and buff, but that really wasn't coming through at all. Oh wow, that's barely doing anything. So I switched to gold tester's paint. When everything was dry, filled it up with water. This is a safety shot in case I fill this with water and it explodes. Believe it or not, that was not the sound of it failing. And that's how you make AJ Carmichael. I'm amazed that isn't leaking. Famous last words. Now, because this is YouTube, I know the nitpickers are going to say, what about the body? Well, the short answer is I ran out of time and money to do that in this video. I'm already way behind schedule for this month. But for the people who are actually attempting to do this as a cosplay, not just a display piece, an easy way to do that would be by buying a sports jacket that's about a foot taller than yourself, then attach fake shoulders to the sides of a bike helmet, attach the tank on top of the bike helmet, and then put on the suit jacket over that. That's the sort of thing that I'd like to do on this channel, but I just don't have the budget yet. If that's the sort of thing you'd like to see, then you can follow the Patreon link below. If you're not able to support me, but you want to keep up with these videos, then you can hit the bell icon to be notified of future uploads. And until those come out, you can check out any of the hundreds of previous builds. Thanks for watching, everyone. Happy crafting. See you later.